Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Good day, Cavs fans, and welcome to another edition of The Block, The Shot, The Stop, a Cleveland Cavaliers podcast that usually comes to you post-game after each and every Cavs game, but we're doing something a little bit different, a little special in this week that we have off between the regular season and the playoffs. We just want to take a minute, take a breath, and look back at the season that was before we jump into playoff mode and get all caught up in that. So this is part one of a two-part episode that is going to cover everything from the regular season to our favorite players and plays and games. And we're going to give out some awards. We have a bunch of different guests that are going to come in and join us over the course of these two episodes. But to start out, it's the trio. It's Skylar Webker, Tim Daniel, and I am Kevin Lynch. Boys, are we ready to talk? Are we ready to talk a little bit about possibly the greatest Cavs season ever before we do playoffs?
Absolutely. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun two-parter episode. I'm ready to kind of season in review after a long season. Ready to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So let's do it. And kind of setting up, we're going to go through, basically we have a series of questions that we're just going to throw out and then kind of roundtable this. And so instead of just explaining anymore, let's just jump right in. And Skylar, I'm going to go to you with this one first. We know whatever we think the most about the season will happen over these next few weeks in the playoffs, right? But when you look back at just the regular season, this amazing season for the Cavs, what's the first thing that pops into your head about this season?
The winning? It's such an easy answer, but the fact that they have the graphics that came out lately, I don't know if anybody's seen them, but it's kind of the bar chart of where each team stood through the season, and the first two lines, Cavs and Celtics, are just straight lines all the way across. So I think that's what I'll remember: the wire to wire, staying in first place from tip off all the way to 82. Just the winning and staying ahead of everybody.
Yeah. What about you, Tim?
Just the dominance, man. Just finding ways to kind of just consistently, like Scott said, stay on top is one thing, but never be out of a game, it felt like. I mean, there'd be times they'd be down 15, 16, 18 points, and they'd find a way to be in it. There'd be games when they're in Boston, and they have 3 points in the first 6 minutes of the game, and they still find a way to win it. Just the fact that the resiliency and their ability to also stay dominant and just never be down long. Longest losing streak of the year was what, 4?
3.
3. Yeah, 3. It felt like, yeah. And that was we were all hitting the panic button at that point because it was a West Coast trip and we were a little over dramatic. Yeah, man, just a pretty awesome year. And just the things that they were able to do was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of things. But the one I'm going to go with, sort of similar to Skylar, or a little bit more specific, I guess, is the winning streaks. To have a 16, a 15, and a 12-game winning streak all in the same season is crazy. That they basically, over half of the season was winning streaks for the Cavs between the three of them combined. And just kind of the momentum and the vibes and the amazing play that happens when you go on a winning streak, any winning streak, like a 3-game winning streak. But to have that 3 winning streaks that lasted that long, I thought was just incredible.
If you ask the Celtics fans, that you can't count the winning streaks.
Right. I have a few more kind of honorable mentions I'll throw out, and if you guys have any, or if you want to comment on any of these, but some other things that we talked about, kind of similar to what Skyler said, 64 wins, the most ever by a non-LeBron team in Cavs history. As far as individual players go, Evan Mobley's leap, Donovan Mitchell's maturation as a leader, Ty Jerome coming out of nowhere, the impact, the instant and a sustainable impact that Kenny Atkinson had on this team. The only other thing I have here is George Niang's podcast. So any of those, any of those things you think you'll really remember, I guess, resonate with you?
I'd probably go the Kenny Atkinson route for sure, just because we all knew they'd be better offensively from where they were with JB, and we did not think it was going to be at points projecting being the greatest offense in NBA history by a stretch of the matter. And the way that he kind of came in and Donovan Mitchell was understanding that for this team to be its best, that he was going to have to take a step back from being kind of super ball dominant. And to kind of have that, and was able to do that behind Kenny's conversations with him he had in the offseason and as they were prepping for the year, just really jumps out the most. So for me, yes, definitely just Kenny Atkinson immediately coming in and just really making things so much easier for this team right away.
Yeah, I think that goes along with kind of my second favorite point of this team was the identity that this team had. Like, this is the first team probably in our lifetimes. Sorry for any of the old heads out here, but this is the first team that's felt like is rememberable and has an identity without LeBron.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think that's totally right. At least in my Cavs fandom, I think you're totally right, Skylar. All right, let's move on and talk about this next one. And Tim, I want to go to you first because everyone listening, when they hear the question, is going to guess the same answer that Tim's going to have. So I'm going to see if you give us the answer we want, we all think you're going to have, or if you throw us a curveball. But so the next topic is, if you could only, there is a lot of Cavs that deserve a lot of accolades for this season. But if you could only give one award to one member of the Cleveland Cavaliers organization, who would it be and what would the award be?
I'd be Tristan Thompson Community Man of the Year award. No, you know what it is.
It's
Evan Mobley. It's Evan Mobley DPOI. I mean, no one was more deserving. I'm so sick of all this banter and conversation we've seen these last couple of weeks. And we're starting to see on Basketball Reference that the ballots are coming in, and some of the names that we're seeing get that. I mean, we're not even talking about the fact that Ime Udoka got a vote. Sorry,
Kendrick Perkins is. I don't know what's going on with that guy.
Friendly reminder: Zach Lowe got fired, so Kendrick Perkins still had a job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Mobley was single-handedly. If you go from beginning of the season to the end of the year, he was the best defensive player in the world, and maybe not when Wembanyama was healthy, but he was a close second. And Draymond Green had to have a podcast to talk about it. I saw Kevin O'Connor, who I really respect, voted Amen Thompson, and the Rockets are going to get eliminated in the first round by the Warriors. So I would not be, it's not a guy I would be putting that money on. So
side note, that's recency bias. He just held Steph Curry to his lowest point total ever in a regular season game. So like with the third or fourth last game of the year. So it's total recency bias. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, but yeah, I mean, Mobley was consistently day in and day out the best player in the world. I mean, and if you look at the guys he's guarding in every single Cavs regular season game that he's playing in, LeBron, Pascal Siakam, which are totally different players, Kevin Durant, he's the guy who's kind of, guarding the perimeter, guarding the paint, guarding the rim. He did it all. He was he was the best 3-level defender in basketball this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, you gave us the answer we thought we were going to get, and the answer that we wanted from you, Tim, to be honest.
I know.
Skylar, what award would you give to who?
So not a traditional award, not an award that anybody actually gives, but I think the Cavs training staff needs an award. To the fact that everybody stayed healthy through the entirety of the year. Like, other than Max Strus missing the first part, everybody was healthy and available and ready to go. Sure, little knick-knack game or two here or there, but what other team in the league has not been missing their star the entire year, or one of their stars the entire year?
Did not have athletic trainers of the year on my bingo card, but I like it.
Neither. I like it.
I like it. I'm going to do different than Tim. I know what everybody thinks I'm going to say. Everybody thinks I'm going to say Ty Jerome 6th man of the year, but I'm not. I'm going to go with something else. What I think is, it's kind of a almost an organization award. I want Kobe Altman to win executive of the year.
I was wondering if this was going to come up. Yeah.
Because he is the person who put this team together and put these people in a position to succeed and put people together who could succeed together. So I always like to go to kind of the top of the food chain. And I think, what's going on at the bottom by what's going on at the top. Right. And so, I really hope he wins, because if it's an award for just this year, he probably won't. I mean, he pretty much just hired Kenny Atkinson and traded for DeAndre Hunter, which are both really good moves, but maybe not enough to win Executive of the Year. But the work he has done really since the LeBron years, and especially the last 5 or 6 years, to build this team back patiently into one of the best teams in basketball, I just think it's deserved. I think he should win.
I mean, he's got to beat out Nico Harrison for Executive of the Year. So I think a lot of the Lakers are really voting him Executive of the Year right now.
Yeah.
Is Rob Pelinka going to get a vote strictly just because it landed in his lap?
He should. So some of the other ones that we didn't mention, I'm going to throw out, and if you guys want to comment on any of them, but Donovan Mitchell for All NBA, Evan Mobley for All NBA. I think they're both safely going to make it, most likely on Mitchell on the first team, Mobley on the second, which I think is where they both deserve to be. So I hope that is the outcome. Tim mentioned Mobley for Player of the Year. We did not mention Darius Garland for Clutch Player of the Year. He has metrics that say he probably should at least be in the running. He did have kind of a rough stretch that we've talked about ad nauseum. We're going to let go now. He was obviously amazing in the clutch in a couple games last week, but that's something there was like a little wave of momentum for, but then I feel like, he's not going to be considered as much as he should. Ty Jerome for Sixth Man of the Year. Obviously we discussed that ad nauseum, and we don't think it's going to happen, but we think it should. And then Kenny Atkinson for Coach of the Year. I mean, I think, and there's probably even ones that I'm not mentioning. DeAndre Hunter is also in the running for Sixth Man of the Year. But there are so many guys, there's so many individuals that deserve accolades on this team because of what they have accomplished as a team.
Completely agree. Yeah, completely agree.
All righty. If we're good with that one, let's go on to the next one. This one's a little bit harder because there was about 10 million of them this year, but we're gonna think about some of our the most exciting individual plays. And by an individual play is a game-winning shot, a dunk, a block, anything. And the Cavs have, it's something that's on the highlight reel. So, Skylar, I'll go to you first. When they're putting together the Cavs highlight reel from this season, what is one of the first ones you think will end up on it?
So I think the one I'm going to go with is the Donovan Mitchell game winner against Milwaukee. I think that was obviously beneficial for the Cavs. They won, but it was also a game that proved that they could win against these upper echelon of teams, and really was one of the games that sent Milwaukee kind of into a spiral in the first part of the season. So I think there was a lot more that came out of that game from Milwaukee and the game winner of it than kind of the play itself. So a lot of the, like I said, the contextual stuff I think was really important, really fun, and obviously just fun to watch, especially in those dwindling seconds.
Yeah. What about you, Tim? I think it's a great answer, by the way.
It is a great answer. I'm also going to go a Mitchell play, but I'm going to go the spinning layup against the Bulls early in the year, because that's when you're like, oh my God, this guy's athleticism, which you already knew for sure. But just seeing someone do something like that in an actual NBA game and making the shot that counts on top of it while drawing a foul, just ultra levels of excitement. I'm sure if you search Donovan Mitchell 2025 Cavs mixtape, that's probably in the first minute or two of plays that are going to be shown.
Yeah. That's another really good one. So, I got a bunch here, but I'll go with Darius Garland's game winner against Detroit, just because it was such an improbable play. And it was at the tail end of if anybody recalls that game, the Cavs were in pretty good control, then kind of let the lead get away. And you thought it was a game that they might, completely give away after Detroit ties it with 4 or 5 seconds to go. And Darius is able to go 3/4 of the way the court and hits a 40-foot three at the buzzer to win. And that was right in the middle of the 16 game winning streak. I think it was around game 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. There's not a lot more exciting than literally a buzzer beater game winner.
Yeah, absolutely. That was pretty nuts.
I don't know. A buzzer beater block, because I think Evan Mobley had one against Orlando sometime this year. Or maybe I'm confusing it with the playoffs last year, because I think he did it in the playoffs last year too, where he had a game-winning block.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many good ones. So I limited to just like a few extra ones. The one I seriously considered going with was the Donovan Mitchell, like cocked back double clutch dunk on Derek White's, who you may think like he dunked on Derek White. Derek White's not that big. Derek White is the best shot blocker for a guy under 6'6" in the league.
Yeah.
So to do something like that is incredible on him. My favorite Mobley play of the season was when he blocked a shot hard left-handed against Milwaukee, chased down the ball, dribbled up the court all the way up the court, most of it left-handed, and then dunked left-handed on Brook Lopez. So just and it was early in the season. I think a lot of our favorite Mobley plays are early in the season because it just kind of set the tone for what he was going to do this year, right? The other one I had was, and this is a little bit kind of random, but it's Donovan Mitchell's 3-pointer against Boston with 7 minutes left, because that 3-pointer gave them their first lead in the game. And if you remember, this is the game at the end of February when they're down 23, 5 minutes into the game. And so they're fighting back the whole game. And it wasn't a game where they necessarily had like a Cavalier, future topic, but they kind of chipped away all game. And Donovan Mitchell was spectacular. In my opinion, it was his best game of the year. And he hits that 3. And that was the moment I'm like, they can beat these guys, not just now, but they can beat these guys in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anything else? Are we ready for the next one?
I think we're ready for the next one.
All right, let's do it. Tim, I'm going to come to you first here. And this is one of my favorites, and I just teased it, but your favorite Cavalanche of the year. And I will say, if anybody doesn't know a Cavalanche is when the Cavs go on a big run, like a 12-0 run, a 15-4 run, all in a few minutes time, where it seems like it's just literally an avalanche of points and plays being thrown at the other team. And it really I think it started out kind of as a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it really became a thing this year because of how potent they were offensively. So
because copy wrote it. So yeah.
And I think it's a perfect catchphrase and something we certainly use many times on social media. So Tim, when you think about Cavalanches, what's one that you remember from this season?
I'm gonna have to go with the one again, October against the Lakers, the 28-8 run at the end of the first quarter, mainly because I was at the game. That's the biggest reason. And it was like you saw how good they were, obviously, and it was like getting to see them in person for the first time of the year. And you're like, oh, this rules. Like this is awesome. This is gonna be a really fun year. And seeing that in person, just seeing kind of like just the way they put it together real quick, it was pretty great.
It was because it's always a big thing when LeBron comes back to Cleveland the one time a year. And so there's a lot of build up. It's a nationally televised game, all those things. So I think that's a great one. Skylar, what about you?
I'm going to go with one of the games against the Knicks where it was on ESPN. Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins were the halftime team or whatever. And the Cavs were up 40 at halftime.
Smith has the meltdown of like, they can't beat the Cavs or the Celtics.
Exactly. Yes. That was my favorite. Is just seeing the absolute meltdown of Stephen A. Smith, a historic New York Knicks fan, just having an absolute meltdown that the Cavs are putting a belt to ass, as we like to say.
Oh, that's a fantastic one. I love that call. Mine. First one I thought of is the one I'm going to go with was early in the season, game 8 against the Golden State Warriors. Friday night, another nationally televised game. Big game. The Cavs are 7-0. The Warriors, I think, were 6-1 coming into that game, if I remember correctly. And the Cavaliers were up 41 at halftime on the strength of 2 Cavalanches, one in each the first and second quarter, where they literally had 2 runs where they outscored the Golden State by like 20 points in a 5-minute time span. And just completely dominated the game. The second half was completely irrelevant because of it. But again, that was a game and a moment that's that is a moment where I started thinking, like, how far could this team go? This team might not be just like a, have aspirations of a 4 seed kind of thing. Could they actually be one of the best teams in the NBA?
Boy, did they prove that right.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I actually remember texting Kevin during that game. I was like, do you just want to go live early since this game's so out of hand? He goes, if they have a comeback, this is all your fault.
Fair enough. I got a couple honorable mentions here if you guys have any. The early season game against Boston, the December 1st game, the Cavs went on a 26-10 run in the fourth quarter after they were down most of the game to come back and win the second matchup of the year against Boston. There was a game in February against Minnesota where they outscored the T-Wolves 28-10 in the first quarter. So it was literally an entire quarter of Cavalanche. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then in another Boston game, they went on a 25-8 run, I think, over the third and fourth quarter to close another, big gap that they had against the Celtics. And, those couple of runs against the Celtics, I just think it's so important because if the Cavs ended up 0-4 or 1-3 against Boston, they're going into these playoffs with much less confidence than they do. The fact that they split, but they split in the way they did, where they came back from big deficits, went toe to toe with them. Mitchell goes toe to toe with Tatum, and I really think those two wins against Boston and the way they won those games are like significantly important for this playoff run.
I don't know if we didn't mention the game that they had against the Mavericks, and they scored 91 points at the half.
That was the first game after the Luka trade. Yeah,
it was. Because the Luka trade happens at like midnight on Saturday nights, and then they had the early game against the Mavs. It was like a 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Eastern game, something like that.
Yeah.
And the Mavs, I don't know if I've ever seen an NBA team sleepwalk through a middle of the season game the way they did. That was maybe we just kind of felt sorry for the Mavs on that day, and that's why we didn't think to bring it up. But Skylar No Mercy Webker won't let it die.
91 is 91. Doesn't matter who the other team is.
Yeah.
Through that.
Well, those are some awesome categories. We're actually going to take a break here. We're going to come back with Zach Weiss from across the Cavs to finish up part 1 of our regular season review of the Cavs. So please stay tuned, and we'll see you soon. And welcome back to this special episode of the Block the Shot to stop our regular season recap. We have our first guest of these special editions that we're doing, Zach Weiss from across the Cavs. Zach, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, Kevin, great to be here. We are just a few short days away from Cavs playoff action. It's nice to be 3 years removed from the last play-in appearance, and hopefully the last one we ever have to deal with, seeing how these games have gone so far. But great to be here. Excited to talk Cavs regular season. Second most wins we've ever seen from a Cavs team in the regular season.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I want to take a brief pause before the playoffs, which obviously the playoffs is going to be the thing we remember most about the season, but want to use this week off to like kind of celebrate and make sure we did, kind of capture this regular season, because it was, at least for me, the most fun. It was definitely the most fun non-LeBron season, arguably the most fun season regardless. So yeah, I appreciate you joining us. And before we get into kind of the segment that you're going to help us out with, please tell our listeners about your show Across the Cavs. I listened to, I don't know if it was your most recent or one of your most recent episodes with Tim Alcorn, the play-by-play guy for the Cavs, which is great. So please share a little bit about your show.
Yeah, Across the Cavs started in late October of 2019. So the first couple of seasons, going through the Andre Drummond times, the Kevin Porter incidences, the year after the drama with Larry Drew, Beeline, all that fun stuff, the slugs and the thugs. But yeah, the show's been around 7 years. Talked to 13 different Cavs players. If you go through the archives, 2 interviews with Mark Price. And what I like to think makes the show unique, and what's always been cool with me, is I've always been big on just history. I'm 29 years of age. I missed a lot of Cavs. I was not alive for the first 25 years, and I really didn't become a big Cavs fan until 2003. So there's a lot of ground to make up. There's a whole, if you go deeper on every decade, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, with episodes featuring a few guests, including Evan Damrell, who did the 2010s with me back 4 years ago. So you can learn all about your history there, every player that ever suited up. And I'm always birthdays, transactions, what happened on this day. The pod will be a lot more active. If you see it, there's only been a couple episodes the last few months. Just had a busier schedule. Will be a post-game reaction for most postseason games for the Cavs. And obviously, starting with you guys today, kind of getting back into that zone. And that's across the Cavs, 7 years, over 200 episodes, a lot more to come. So stay tuned, folks.
Awesome, man. And you're one of several people with Cavs shows or Cavs content that are coming on. And we're big on, like, we think there's room for everybody. We hope everyone's like us and can't digest enough Cavs content. So we want to collab with you and everybody and really appreciate you joining us today to do a very, like, I don't know, a very fun kind of, I don't want to call these awards, but kind of something that we're, kind of deciding on. We'll call it award, whatever. It's for the best individual performance by a Cavs player this year, meaning like the best individual game a Cavs player played. I'll read off a few of the ones that probably come to mind for everybody, and then we'll go around and we'll start with you, Zach. But yeah, I think one that will immediately come to mind for a lot of people, did for me, was Donovan Mitchell having 41 points in that game a few weeks ago against Boston in the 23-point comeback. Incredible performance, arguably his best performance of the year. I remember Tim and I did the show, The True Evan Mobley Coming Out Party, when he had 41 and 10 against Charlotte in early December. And he hit 4 or 5 threes in the first quarter. It was just crazy. There, if you look at like leading scorers in an individual game, like Darius Garland's name is all over that list. I think he has like 7 of the top like 12 or 13. The one I picked for him was, when he had 39 points, 9 assists against Milwaukee in early November. Phenomenal performance. My favorite Jared Allen game was when they played the Lakers on New Year's Eve. He just dominated. That's when AD was still in the Lakers, just dominated him and LeBron inside. And then kind of a personal favorite, when Ty Jerome went for 25 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, and 6 steals against Portland, because that was the game Tim and I were in Cleveland for, as well as Skylar, because we did our live show that day and just kind of capped off our favorite day of the Cavs season with a exciting comeback win.
Yeah, Hunter was awesome in that game too.
Yeah, so those are some of the leading contenders. But Zach, I have a feeling we're gonna let you go first. I have a feeling you're gonna go off the board, and you got something that I didn't think of.
Yes, and technically, I know there's some key words used when you say individual, but I think it's the collective individual combination that make this the best game of the season. Thinking about the Cavs going 64-18 and not having home court in the NBA Finals makes you think, oh, who's that team that's above them? A certain group of barkers, as you heard from your side, Kevin. You got your dog going. The Dogs up in OKC went 68-14. They went 30-1 against the East. Everybody remembers where they were on January 8th. I know where I was. I was watching that game, excited, screaming, and truthfully, I have to say the best individual performance comes by all the Cavs combined against the Thunder on that day. Because, Ty had his games. Jared Allen shot over 85%, 12 times this season. Darius had his 30 burgers in his shot against the Pistons. Jerome had his 6 3-pointer first half without a miss. So many players had these just incredible performances. But I think you look at that game, Mobley 21, 10, and 7. Jared Allen 25, 11, and 6 on 82% shooting. Donovan shot 3 for 16 and they won. Max 5 for 6 from 3. Okoro plus 12 in 13 minutes. Jerome had 15 points in 11 minutes. So even though nobody specifically dominated individually, there were a few guys just had huge games. So my answer, again, I know you wanted one guy, but I think the team effort win over the Thunder is the best individual performance, because that individual game out of the 82 to me stands out more than any of the other 82.
Well, if you're going to cheat and go off the board like that, that's one thing, and we'll certainly react. But I do love the creativity of that, and I will say this was the runner-up for best Jared Allen game of the year, and we'll talk about everybody individual. But you're right. Just to reiterate, the 25 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals for Jared Allen. Like, he was absolutely incredible. The Thunder were without Chet Holmgren that game, but Hartenstein played, and Hartenstein had a very good game, but he was done with Jared Allen by the end of that game, and Evan Mobley for that instance. So with that, Tim, what do you think of Zach's call?
It's the best game of the year. for sure. It's really the time that you finally saw those two teams kind of get really national televised. Kev, we've laughed all season just about Kenny's interview in the fourth quarter. And it's like, isn't this great? That's been kind of one of our favorite moments as well. So I like it. I mean, it definitely makes a lot of sense. Like I said, easily the best game of the season, in my opinion. You have those two teams who both ended up winning their conferences, have a game like that on TNT going at it. It was awesome. So I like the pick. I think it's smart.
Yeah, I like the pick especially for how Zach explained it, the collective performance. Because really this was a game, Donovan Mitchell especially struggled. Darius Garland, didn't have his best game either. And when your all-star backcourt, plays far below their standard and you can still beat the best team in the league or the other best team in the league, it really showed you the strength of the team. I mean, looking back at this game now, I think that was the game. Was that the game that it finally felt like Max Strus was back? I mean, he came back a couple of weeks before, but was really acclimating himself. And then I think that was his first really good game. So it was nice to have him back in an impact way. Like you said, Ty Jerome played less than 12 minutes and had 15 points. I love Ty Jerome. He's the best. But yeah, no, I think that's a great call, Zach. Tim, what about you? What do you think?
You already mentioned it, but I think I have to go to the Mobley Charlotte Hornets performance, the 41-10. Just kind of felt like this was, for those of us who are diehard Cavs fans, it felt like it was like our I told you so game, where the rest of the NBA was like, okay, so he really is like that. We obviously know otherworldly defender. I've been on brand about saying that quite a bit through my thoughts on DPOI this year. And having a game like that where we're like, man, if he just really could consistently find a 3-point shot, it unlocks everything for this team. And that game just comes out knocking threes down. I get it. Someone's going to say, well, it's the Charlotte Hornets, but we know how I feel about the NBA jersey on everyone's patches. It's all the same. But for him to kind of have that game early December, they're coming off the winning streak had been over at that point. They go in there and they kind of take care of business and kind of put their foot down and be dominant against a team like that. And he leads the way. Probably my favorite, but as the president of the Evan Mobley fan club, that's probably a little biased.
Yeah, Zach, what if you can recall that game at Evan's performance? What thoughts do you have?
He's a shooter now. He's a shooter now. He's taken a team like Charlotte, who's banged up. I couldn't tell you who started at center that day. I know that they.
Taj Gibson. I believe it was Taj Gibson.
It was
Josh Gibson's days of being Tibbs' favorite. Tibbs was probably crying watching that game wherever he was, saying, "Taj, I can't put you in for 40 minutes anymore after this. Sorry, buddy." That's my reaction as well.
Yeah, I remember doing that podcast, and it was that late November. I should say that was right after the winning streak was snapped, and then they started getting going again.
They lost twice to Atlanta.
Yeah, they lost to Boston and then twice to Atlanta in about a 10 days time, 2 weeks time, something like that. And then that was the game where all right, they're going to start being dominant again. And Evan Mobley had been really good up to that year. He went to a whole nother level that game. That game really was kind of the takeoff of his 3-point shot. I mean, he had hit a few to begin the year, but I really feel like that game was the starting point of him building confidence and being reliable from the 3-point line. And yeah, I think that's a good call. I mean, it's not necessarily the most exciting game of the year, not the greatest opponent to beat, but when we've all been waiting for that leap of Evan Mobley, and then you see a game where you actually can kind of see it happening within the game, I mean, I think that's a really great call.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate
it. No worries. So for mine, I really wanted to pick Ty Jerome, guys. I really did. Between the fact that I was there, between the fact that it really was an incredible game without Donovan Mitchell, he led the comeback that game, and the fact that I'm
Denny Avdia like Luka.
Yeah, I'm leading the Ty Jerome for 6th man of the year wagon. But I am going to pick Donovan Mitchell against Boston at the end of February, just a few weeks ago. They get down by 23 points, 5 minutes into the game, and they slowly started chipped away a little bit in the second quarter, and then really in the third quarter started chipping away. And that was a game, we used to see the last couple of seasons, Donovan Mitchell try and take over almost every game. He's this year done a lot better job of picking his spots, trusting his teammates, and being more of a leader, not feeling like he has to force anything. But that was a game I remember coming on afterward, and we said, like, sometimes you need your superstar to be a superstar, and he was that game. He not only led them with the scoring and the efficiency and everything, but like he picked up the rest of the team like he has so many times this year, and like brought them along and like led them, and really I feel like he convinced the guys on the team we can beat this team, we can come back against this team, and then went out and kind of not only with his words but then proved it with his play. Zach, your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, it's always great when you can watch Donovan Mitchell do something special. Especially you talk about considering how many down games he had just been having throughout January, February. He'll be up, he'll be down. It's not the same Donovan that we may have seen in the past, who is that alpha option whenever you need him. But they also knew, especially winning a game like that, considering how close the race for first actually ended up becoming this year, that's a type of win where Donovan leads you and it gives you the breathing room that you want. Going into the last 2 months, you know that March is going to be a crazy busy schedule. There's no all-star, deadlines passed. There's really no reason for the NBA to take it easy on anybody, so they never do. March is always January and March are always two of those just very hard, long months, and the Cavs grinded through it. And it also enabled them to have, by beating the Celtics in that game, I think they had a 1-point edge in the total scoring for the season series with how much they won by. Every Donovan point mattered, and it was only a matter of time until he came through. Because Karras might not have been there to score 40 on Boston randomly anymore. But Donovan was.
True.
Donovan was. And
Yeah.
that mattered.
Yeah, and Tim, I want to get your reaction, but like something that I remember you and I talking about on the show, like the games leading up to that, as you mentioned, Zach, when Donovan was really struggling with his shot and everything, we were on the show begging him to go to the basket, get some easier shots, get to the foul line. Such a good foul shooter. And then this was the first game he had double. I think it was only the second. He only had 2 games in February where he had double-digit free throw attempts, and this is the first one in what felt like weeks, and went 10 for 11 from the line. And I really think that was one of the key parts of, him getting his numbers, the Cavs getting their win, but also just him getting his confidence back. So, Tim, with that, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the other thing that really is underrated about that game is how good Jason Tatum was. That Mitchell had to kind of lift his stature to go against him. Tatum was an assist away from a triple-double in that game. He had 46, 16, and 9. He also had 3 blocks. If you remember, he's trash talking. He's like doing the FOH out there on the floor to Cleveland, and then Cleveland goes out there and just says like, "All right, dude, like we'll take it from you." And so Mitchell kind of had that moment where he does that. Not only Kevin, the 41 points. It's one of the few times in the year he played over 35 minutes because of Kenny's restrictions. But also the 5 assists were super underrated in that game as well. I know Garland had 7. But for them to kind of figure out like, okay, this team right now is just Tatum and Brown, because Brown also had 37 that night. Was just kind of see what we can do here. So for Mitchell to kind of elevate his status to beat those two when they're having a game like that, it certainly has to be in the conversation. So I love that you mentioned this one.
Yeah. And there's been a million great performances by Cavs players this year. So, and we loved every single one of them, but you have to choose. And I think we made three really good choices. So with that, Zach, thank you so much again for coming on. Everybody check out, if you're not already. Yeah. Check out Across the Cavs. As Zach said, he's going to be putting out a lot of content with the playoffs, as we all are, and ready for a really historic playoff run. So Zach, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Tim, great talking Cavs. Always great talking Cavs. We finally know we're not playing the 1:00 game this time. If there's technical difficulties on the game 1 broadcast, I won't be mad. I enjoy all the national.
That was fun. Yeah,
it was amazing. That's not a diss on anybody. I appreciate all the national commentators. Everyone thinks there's a bias on one team, one way or another. Whenever your team is losing or an underdog, which the Cavs are not now anyway, it's very different from the Orlando series last year. But can't wait for that game 1. We'll get that first moment. Here's my nugget for you guys. I got some new graphics as well coming to the playoff. The Cavs are 18-8 all time in home game 1s. So let's make that 19-8.
Absolutely.
I like it. I like it. Let's do it. All right. So with that, we are going to conclude part 1 of our regular season recap. We will be back tomorrow to finish out. We got a couple more awesome guests as well tomorrow. So for that, and until tomorrow, Thank you all for listening. And as always,
Go Cavs.
Let them know.